Vinny from New Jersey has 2 questions. Much like you, my favorite Royal Rumble is 1992, but I consider 1989 to be a strong second. What are your thoughts on the 89 Rumble match, and which would you consider your strong second? I thought the 89 Rumble was fine. I think, was that the Rumble where DiBiase went a long time? He went like 50-something minutes. I think it was either 89 or 90, I can't remember. No, maybe it was 91. No, I'm completely off now. I'm way off. It definitely was not 89. It was either I think it was 91 that DiBiase went 50-something minutes. 89 came down to, it was John Studd and who else? I don't remember. Maybe it was John Studd and DiBiase. Maybe I am right. I got to look this up. Hold on a second. Okay, we're back now, and this makes sense. DiBiase was in there last with John Studd in 89, but he was only in there for a short period of time. The Rumble I was thinking of where DiBiase set the, I don't know if it was an actual record, but he had the Iron Man performance that year in the Rumble, was 1990. He actually entered at number 1, and he lasted almost 45 minutes, so that's what I was thinking of. I remember that because in 92 when he came out, he was like number 2, and he was gone before number 3 even came out. So it was quite the contrast from the performance he had, I thought, the previous year, but I guess it was 2 years before. So that's what I was thinking of, 1990. The 89 Rumble is the one where they were building to the eventual split with the Mega Powers, because Hogan was in it, Savage was in it, both got eliminated. There was some heat there, but then they kind of made up. But then, a few weeks later, they did the turn on the main event special. So this was kind of the final leg of building up to that big split. That was also the Rumble where the Warlord got dumped out in 2 seconds, and I think Warlord held the record until Santino. And so Big John Studd winning, to me, it didn't do anything for me. I didn't really see what the big deal was. I was never a huge Big John Studd fan. The Rumble was still in its infancy. I mean, Hacksaw Jim Duggan won the first one, for Christ's sake. It's not like winning the Rumble really meant anything until 1992 when the title was on the line. So I like the 89 Rumble because it had a lot of those old school guys. That might have been, I don't want to look it up again, but I think 89 was also the year that Demolition opened the Rumble. It was Axe and Smash were numbers 1 and 2, and they kind of beat the crap out of each other. I thought that was kind of cool. So there were parts of the Rumble that year that I enjoyed, and I liked all the old school guys. A lot of those shows from the late 80s, early 90s I'm a fan of just because of the time period. But I can't say that it was my favorite Rumble, or I would even necessarily put it in my top 3. If I had to pick a strong second, it's not even, there is no strong second. Strong being the key word there. 1992 is just leaps and bounds ahead of all the other Rumbles that I would put on my own list. Number 2 lags far behind, but if I had to pick a number 2, I might actually go with the 2005 Royal Rumble. I really enjoyed that match for some reason. It was good. It wasn't like a bad Rumble, but for some reason I just remember really liking that Rumble match. And there aren't a lot of Rumble matches in the last decade that I can honestly say I thought were that good. I think the Rumble has been kind of lackluster for the most part. But there were a lot of different stories told in that match. Benoit and Eddie brutalizing the young rookie in Daniel Puder, which was tough to watch. Everyone ganging up on Muhammad Hassan to dump him out of the ring. The start of the feud with Shawn Michaels and Kurt Angle that led to their WrestleMania 21 match. I think Shawn also eliminated Simon Dean. I remember being pretty entertained by that. And the Final 4 in the Rumble. It came down to Edge, Rey Mysterio, John Cena, and Batista. And it really gave you a look into the future. This was before Edge got his big break as the World Heavyweight Champion and carried SmackDown, and this was before Cena and Batista were launched into the stratosphere. Neither guy had won a world title yet. They would a few months later. And then Mysterio, too. Mysterio would win the world title at WrestleMania 22. So this was a look into the crystal ball that was WWE's future, whether we fully realized it or not. And even the finish was botched. John Cena was not supposed to go out of the ring with Batista. Batista was supposed to stay in the ring, win the match, but when he picked Cena up for the Batista bomb, his momentum carried him all the way over, and both guys not only hit the floor, they hit the floor at the exact same time. And it was a botch. So think about that. If you watched the replay of it, it's not like, this guy hit first, it's so obvious, it's so clear. They hit at exactly the same time. They could not have They could not have planned it or scripted it any better if they tried, if that was the actual outcome of the Rumble. And then Vince is all pissed off. He storms down to the ring, tears both of his quads, collapses. It's a classic moment. But the fans were into it, and the fans really wanted Batista to win. Batista was super over, which is funny to me because the plan had been for Randy Orton to go to WrestleMania to meet Triple H, and they realized a few months before this that, hey, this Batista guy, he's kind of popular. He's catching fire. And that's an example of somebody just organically getting over, and building a story over many, many months. It's not like Batista was part of Evolution, and then 3 months later they broke him up and they turned him. Like, no, it built. And it was something Triple H fought for, to his credit, because I think Vince had wanted to do a Batista Triple H match on Raw. He wanted to blow it off once on Raw, and Triple H is like, no, we've got to save this. We've got to save this for WrestleMania. And he was right. He was absolutely right, because they saved it, they built it, and that WrestleMania, which had no celebrity, I mean, maybe in the crowd, I think they had like David Arquette and maybe Adam Sandler, but I mean, there was no real celebrity involvement on the show. There was no other huge match. Shawn Michaels and Kurt Angle was huge, I guess, if you're a pure wrestling fan. But the only real major attraction, and I don't count that Big Show Akebono sumo match, was Batista and Triple H. And they did over 1 million buys for that WrestleMania. They didn't need Mike Tyson, and they didn't need to bring back stars from the past. Hey, let's bring back Stone Cold. Let's bring back, dig up the bones of fucking Jerry Graham or whatever. They did it with guys who got over on their own and with a story that people were into that they built up over several months, and they did over 1 million buys. Anyway, the point of all this is that Rumble was the genesis of a lot of that. It kind of gave us a glimpse into the future. And as a Rumble match, I thought it was very well put together. So if I had to pick a number 2, I would go with the 2005 Royal Rumble. Vinny's second question, Big John Studd won the 89 Rumble and entered into what looked like what was going to be a big money feud with Andre the Giant, which went nowhere, and Studd disappeared from TV shortly thereafter. I was wondering if you could shed some light as to why his push stopped cold. Did Studd walk away willingly? Was it a backstage thing, or did plans change like they so often do? I was of the impression that he just wasn't happy with what they had planned. Maybe it was a money issue as well. It was not a situation where he was only supposed to be in for a short time and then leave. I mean, he came back, I think, with the belief and the understanding that he was going to be in line for a big push. And I guess maybe he found out differently. He wasn't happy, and he left, and that was it. And I think a few years later he died. He had Hodgkin's disease, and he passed away.